Okay. I think before we come to chapter of conflictorium, I want to know a bit about you, where you come from, like what's your journey been like before conflictorium? Where have you studied and like things like that?
So I was born in Raipur actually, but I did my initial years and my schooling in Bilaspur. I'm born to two teachers. Both of my parents are school teachers. One from the social science and one from chemistry. And then after leaving school, जब मेरा मैंने 12th तक की पढ़ाई तो साइंस में की थी because I wanted to be an engineer like so many of us. But then thankfully by the time my college exams started, the entrance exams, I realized that engineering was not something I was interested in. And thankfully, I had my parents' support where they were very, very eager for me to explore what I wanted to do in life. And that's how I managed to get myself into a media college. So I got into Symbiosis as a scholarship student. And there I studied and majored in journalism. And I worked as a journalist for a decade before coming back to Chhattisgarh. I came back to Chhattisgarh also as a journalist. I always wanted to do that. I feel that as reporters or storytellers, it's very important to have context. And I always had more context about my state where I was born and raised than, say, somebody who's come here just for like 3 or 4 years. And so I always wanted to come back to Chhattisgarh and report on the ongoing conflict, on the inequality, on the resource related issues. And so I came here in 2020, came back to Chhattisgarh in 2020. And at that point of time, I was working as a state correspondent for Indian Express. And I worked with Indian Express in Chhattisgarh for 2 years before quitting. And that was in itself because the heavy work or the very hectic lifestyle that a journalist has to lead was really catching up on me. And I was admitted in the hospital with a very long autoimmune disorder that I have faced from childhood, but it had not surfaced up until then. And that's when I realized how stress or not taking care of your body can actually manifest in your body not working with you. And when I was hospitalized for a week is when I realized that, okay, something has to change in my life. And that's when I started looking for adjacent work, in the sense I didn't want to quit the work that I was doing. I genuinely feel very passionate about journalism. But I was realizing more and more that the way news or media is consumed in the society is changing. And it would be foolish for us to not change according to that. And so Conflictorium for me was not really a different direction, but something adjacent and less taxing than, or so I thought, than journalism. And so I started working with Conflictorium in October 2022. And that's how I ended up here in this space. I joined as a researcher. I was a researcher for Conflictorium, where I would primarily work on finding out information and also finding out, finding out the credibility or viability of the artists that we would be working with. Who is the best voice for the issue is what my job was, and also to get data and other statistics around the topics that we were talking about. I transitioned into the role of program lead in 2024 after Ayush, who was the curator and very, very important part of Conflictorium, quit Conflictorium and moved to, well, better cities. That's when I became the program lead here in Raipur. And since then, I've been here. A lot of people have changed, come and gone. Yeah.
I want to go a little back when you said your career in journalism. We want to share something, matlab, some stories that you covered, some experiences you have.
I thought I knew Chhattisgarh because my dad had always been like, he was a school teacher, but he's primarily interested in working with schools that are not part of the mainstream. He has worked in schools of mining regions in Korba and like Bilaspur, Akaltara. he has also worked in Bastar and other difficult to reach areas. That's sort of his passion. He likes to set up schools in areas that would not otherwise get access to schools that do so much co-curricular work as well. So because of that, I had seen or experienced firsthand these cities or the issues that these cities face. But now that I have a much better and broader understanding, and this happened only when I was here as a journalist, that I had not even scratched the surface. When I started, so I had moved here in January 2020, and we all know what happened in 2020. But thankfully, because I was a journalist, I had the freedom to move. And I explored that year, really, really traveling across the length and breadth of the state. And I learned so much, not just about the people, but about myself, about how we deal with emotions even, because different regions, different tribes have very different practices of how they deal with death, how they deal with, childbirth, how they treat marriage or relationships even. And we might, in our sense of modernism, think that, oh, these are all old practices, but these not really. These are practices that have survived the, time that has happened since these practices started. And there is some grain of logic there, right? I learned a lot about the food habits of people. I became somebody who started eating things that I would have not had I been a city dweller, including red ants. So now I don't even need to, my friends joke about this, but I just pick up bugs and eat them in the nature because they are really, really tangy snack of nature, and that's something I picked up because of the tribes in Chhattisgarh. I picked up expressions. I picked up, of course, a lot of grief, a lot of there are many sad stories, but that's not what comes to mind now that I'm leaving the state. The sadness, of course, is a part of it, but there's so much joy and there's so much beauty. There's so much lessons, so many lessons that we are learning or we can learn continuously just by experiencing the world from somebody else's point of view. I think that's what journalism helped me the most with, other than the fact that I did a lot of scam stories as well. I did stories about the system's failures as well. But those things I felt more were like job, whereas what I gathered was more personal in terms of my point of views, my lens, how I see things. So
if someone wants to visit your work, tell me how can they?
It's available on Makrak, which is like a portfolio website for journalists. You just have to Google Gargi Verma. I know that sounds braggy, but my work will be there if you want to see on Makrak. There's a lot of work on the Indian Express website. So there's some on my Instagram handle as well, which is there's a highlight on my Instagram, which is places where do I go and what do I do. These are two highlights. So what do I do is basically the stories that I have covered, and where do I go is the places that I have been to while working as a journalist. They're not just in Chhattisgarh. These are tribal areas in Maharashtra. Wonderful people in Jharkhand and Bihar. So there you can find some of the archives. I'm not really taken care of my archives over the years. It became sort of like a habit, like it would be there online. But there is some stuff available on Makrak, on Instagram, on websites. Google search can basically help. Yeah.
Do you remember when you first heard the word Mahidoli?
Oh yes, very, very vividly. Very, very vividly. Actually, it was through a friend of Ayush's, who was also a friend. And Ayush had reached out to this person saying that there's this team from Ahmedabad that wants to come do Recce. This is early 2021. And the person had reached out to me because I was an active journalist. Ki, hey, would you be able to connect these people to some of the state actors, right? And I was thoroughly amused by the word. I thought that, what does this mean? And I tried to Google it, didn't really find much except the Ahmedabad Museum. But then I met Avni, and Avni is the founder of Avni Sethi. She's the founder of Conflictorium, and she really helped me understand why Conflictorium. It was almost as if she was giving words to thoughts that I had had in my head, but didn't know how to say it out loud yet. And that was, for the person that I was at that point of time, it was beyond amazing. You need to understand, I was somebody who was working with words, right? I was dealing with words, and yet there was an entire language, an entire vocabulary that I had never even come across till then. I remember when the Conflictorium team went to Bastar to speak to some of the state actors there. They'd met Soni Sori, they'd met a lot of other people. And the idea was that I was going to help them pinpoint people. But because I was also like really, really buried in work at that point of time, those connections had not really worked out. Cut to, I met Ayush, who was then the curator, and he was looking for the building. He had not yet found the building of Conflictorium, and I met him at a friend's house where I was going to move into. And there we were like, so when he introduced himself because of our common friend, I went like, oh, are you the one who's working with that museum? And he was like, yes, I think we've spoken on phone. And the house was very close to the then office of the museum. And so Ayush was like, why don't you just come one day? And that meeting itself was something, we had the map of it for a very long period of time here, because Ayush drew a freehand map of Chhattisgarh, and then we discussed each district, because all the districts that I had traveled to, and I was basically giving him anecdotes from each district or what you can focus on in that district and things like that. It was a freehand. I think it's still somewhere here. That's like the first initial conversation about Conflictorium, right? The different districts in the state. And what all can we speak about those districts? How do we bring all of those districts and find commonalities or differences in the issues that these districts face? And I was a friend of the museum for a very long period of time. The museum opened in April 2022. At that point of time, I was not working here, but furniture from my house had already come to the museum. Things from my house had already come to the museum. I had made some connections with the artists that we have worked with since. I had seen this building when they had found this building when it was completely empty. So those kind of interactions were always there, but I was just a friend of the museum. And I really genuinely wanted the museum to thrive, but from a distance. I was also cynical in a way where I was like, I wasn't sure if Raipur was ready for a space like this. Because my experience of Raipur had been very different till then. You know, I had seen more rigidity in people than acceptance. And so I was I was actually worried about it when the museum was opening, that what we are trying to do here, will it even resonate with people? Will people actually understand as to why are we doing this, or what are we really doing? And I am very pleased to say that Raipur astounded me. I found amazing people. I found really, really interesting things, ways, processes that people do things, and the way everybody made the space their own. We never had to tell anybody that, okay, यहाँ पर ये करना है या यहाँ पर वो करना है. People came and this home became their home. The space became theirs. They could just sleep, they could just take pictures, bring people on dates. And with every new iteration, it felt more like, जब Conflictorium खोला था, the tagline was Raipur का अपना Conflictorium. And Raipur made that happen. We didn't. We just opened the space and we tried to have conversations, hold space. But Raipur really, really walked in and made the space their own, which to me, I think is the best thing that the city could have done to me. I met such interesting people who are doing allied or adjacent work in different languages, in different media. And then they would also feel so welcome, right? And so when I started working here, Ayush and I had this conversation. Both of us are single children, so we didn't really have siblings to grow up with. And we always felt disconnected from our friend circles growing up, right? Because we were interested in different things, or we were always asking questions that people didn't have an easy answer to. And so, for me at least, this need to get out of Chhattisgarh was very, very strong when I left school, which is why I stayed out of the state for 10 years almost. And so did Ayush. Not for as many years, but for enough years. And when we came back, the idea was that Conflictorium would become that space of refuge for people like us. If even one person who growing up felt or feels still that they don't belong and nobody understands their language could feel that they were seen or heard or even just felt comfort in this space, we've done our job. That's what we were aiming at. And through the years, I've seen this place become that for youngsters, for married women, for old school civil society members, people who have always felt like they're on the margins have come here and found a community. Or if they were not interested in finding a community, they've come here and found solace. So that has been a really beautiful journey to see with Conflictorium. It has been a crazy journey. I've been working on my handover docket for whoever comes next, and that's a very emotional process. But one day I was just sitting at the feelings map wala area, and I was just visualizing how much the space has changed over the years. And just everything here is like sweat, blood, tears, and also oot. That was random. Sorry. But yeah, like everything here has happened because people wanted it to. We have not really gone like, okay, this is how the space will be, and people will adapt around it. It has always been like, okay, this is what people want, or this is what would make sense right now, so let's do it. And then it has never been a one-person job, Khushal. I'll be very, very honest with you. It has been an entire village of people that have kept this place alive, that have made this place into what it is today, and what I hope it becomes even further. Yeah, I genuinely believe, and I love this space. I genuinely believe in its power. Sorry, it's a emotional topic currently.
Place is very beautiful, first of all. Do you have any anecdote about how you all find this exact place?
Yes. So Ayush and Srishti used to work with Conflictorium, is still associated with Conflictorium. Srishti Sharma is from Lucknow. She's a visual and spatial designer. And Srishti's brainchild is Conflictorium, in the sense that Srishti helped us design the space into what it is today. She made it into this space that is full of information and yet warm and cozy and not synthetic. And Ayush was actively looking for a space, and we were not finding anything. Primarily, we needed a tree in front of the space, because in Ahmedabad as well, we have a sorry tree. And the sorry tree, I think, is very, very important for grounding all of us. And so Khushbu Kakkar from Basic Design Studio had come here to show her cousin. So this property belonged to Khushbu Kakkar's family, and she'd come here to show her cousin the upper floor for like a commercial purpose. But that discussion fell through. However, Khushbu took a photo of, I think, this grill or the grill on top and put it on Instagram. And Ayush used to follow Khushbu, so he saw the Instagram story. And he reached out to Khushbu saying, hey, this place is up for grabs. Is this up for rent? And then Khushbu connected us to her uncle, Prem Kakkar, whose building this is. And that's how we found this building, through Instagram. And that was also a collective effort. And then when the building was found, it was still a home. It needed a lot of... one thing we were sure of was that we wanted the back entrance since the day we started. We didn't want this entrance at all. So we had to build a false wall. We had to create a lot of temporary fixtures in a way that makes sense and can also create diversion.
Yes.
It was also important that it doesn't resemble a house very strongly, because this is, after all, a house, right? But how do you create a public space in a very private space? Houses are designed as rooms that need to be private, that have some privacy. But here we had to eliminate the concept of privacy because this is a public space, right? So Srishti, I think she's a wizard. She's really brilliant at this. and she really helped us identify the rooms, identify what goes where. I remember my flatmate and I, Shambhavi, we used to come here and we used to check up on the progress, even though we were not linked to the team. We were just friends of the museum, but it used to be fun. And during the run-up to the opening, it opened on 14th April. During the run-up to the opening, it was not just Rishi and Ayush who were worried, it was all of us. Oh my God, बहुत सारा काम है, खत्म कैसे होगा. But धीरे धीरे खत्म हुआ and बहुत अच्छे से खत्म हुआ. Like when we opened the doors on 14th April, even that day I remember people were very happily surprised in terms of how a house can become a museum. Since then, we've had a lot of research students from AFT, from other design places, who come here to sort of understand that. How do you create a public space out of a private space, right? How do you turn a house into a living, breathing museum? So yeah, that's how we found and created this building.
You briefly touched upon the day of the Convictorian opening, which was 14 April 2022.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Do you remember, like, though you have not been associated yet, do you remember walking up to that front part, and what's your memory? Like, can we go through?
Oh, so I remember I had come in the evening around 5:30 p.m. and walking in through that gully, it felt very interesting. I have always liked the facade of those long, tall buildings, and it's like the buildings are almost towering over you while you're walking in, right? I felt like I was being seen by the buildings while I was walking in, and then the entire coal alley. And then I remember the exhibition on display at that point of time was Imagining a Forest. So there was this LED green light that said Imagining a Forest at the landing space. And then there were these two rooms that had the artwork. And that was not a multimedia experience because it was the first exhibition that we were doing. It was very primarily focused on art. And at that point of time, Divakar, who was our curator for both the museums, he had managed to curate some really good pieces, some really gigantic pieces from various artists around forests. And at that point of time, because I was a journalist, there was a story that had really, really plagued me for a long time. A 12-year-old girl had died walking home during COVID from Bastar. And she had died she'd walked over 100 kilometers and she had died just 10 kilometers short of her house. And her name was Jamlo Markami. And that story, as journalists, all of us have stories that we hold on to for a long period of time. And I'd held on to it. And I remember there was this artwork that showed Jamlo walking home. And I remember breaking down in front of it, because there were so many beautiful artworks and, it was a very, artsy, for lack of a better word, situation. But that was my first brush with how can you create art that also talks about contemporary issues, that also makes one curious to learn more, to know more about what's going on around them. While art helps us escape, definitely, art can also point us towards the right direction. And that was my first encounter of it. And I remember holding Avni's hand and thanking her. Thank you so much for bringing this to Chhattisgarh. Right here, actually. And then we'd partied the entire night. And then the next morning, I remember so the entire Ahmedabad team had come and Raipur team was also there. And I had joined them as a friend of the museum. We were all so, tired from all the work that we had done, that we'd all cooped up in the residency. And we were eating stale samosas from one day prior. And that's how this museum opened. In a way, yeah.
So then you officially got associated with museum at what date?
In October, as a researcher. The conversation had started around May, but I took some time saying goodbye to journalism. And then my grandfather passed away. So that delayed it further. So that's why I joined only in October. That's one of the biggest regrets I have, I think. My grandfather gave me my name. He also gave me a lot of the critical thinking skills that I have. I would have loved for him to see the space. It would have made a lot of sense to me. But sadly, he passed away before I could bring him here. But once I joined, I remember we were setting up the third exhibition by that point of time, which is called Markers in Morality. So there was a lot of so Markers in Morality was a first time experiment for us as well, because Ayush and I designed a floor based game. Markers in Morality was about freedom of religion and consciousness. It was a long theme that both Ahmedabad and Raipur museums were working at, and we've done a lot of work in it, in the sense that we created Matbhed, which is an actual board game. We created some movies. It was a thematic that we wanted to explore in multiple dimensions. And at that point of time, Ayush and I spoke about, we could have spoken about religion, but more importantly, what we felt was, let's talk about the conscience that the Constitution brings up. Because everybody very conveniently sort of forgets that it's not just freedom of religion, it's also freedom of conscience. You don't have to be bound by religion to behave civilly in a society. Or sometimes what happens is conscience gets thrown out of the window just because religious practices are so strong. And so we worked on building a floor-based game, and we worked with Godna artists, Bega and Gond women from Mahasamund, whom we approached with not a commission, but more like a collaboration. So at Conflictorium, we've always held dignity very centrally. Dignity has to be a part of any conversation that we are doing, right? And that meant that giving the women the agency that, hey, we are interested in what you do, but we don't want to tell you that, okay, make this design for us. Instead, Ayush actually took his tab, in which he had pictures and videos of the museum. He explained it to them that, hey, this is the space that we are in. These are the kind of things that we are talking about. This is the thematic that we are interested in. Do you have something to say on this? Do you want to, maybe put up some artwork here? And then the women came up with a 6-panel design, which was basically the story of how Godna as a practice went from tattooing to clothes. Why did it have to go from tattooing to clothes? They spoke about how just because they had those tattoos on their bodies, they would be discriminated against, or they had to face a lot of pain because of that, right? And they didn't want this to be carried over to their children. So instead of making it on their children's bodies, they would make the dots on their children's clothes, or on the bed sheets, or on the palna that these kids are put in. And that's how slowly and steadily the practice of Godna became an art practice beyond tattooing. And that to me was the best thing that we could have had at that point of time, right? Because these are not this is not our story. We don't get to tell it. They get to tell it from their point of view. And why? And that for city dwellers who have grown up seeing Godna as a tribal practice to stay away from, can actually intervene and understand what these practices look like, or what exactly are the people who are taking these practices further go through, right? So that is a very interesting interesting exhibition. It had a lot of input. As a researcher, I had to do some work. As a curator, Ayush had to do some work. But that was the first time the exhibition was put up. And I remember I was freaking out. Ayush had to deal with so much, poor boy. He had to deal with, because I would freak out, कि काम नहीं हुआ है, कल exhibition चालू होने वाला है, काम नहीं हुआ है. To a place now where the last exhibition we put up literally in 2 days. The exhibition that's on display right now, we literally put it up in 2 days. No, I'm not lying. So it has been a personal journey of growth for me as well, from Markers in Morality to Jaisi Janta Vaisa Shasan. We've maintained a steady flow of 2 exhibitions a year. Some years where we have been very, very active, there have been 3 as well. But primarily 2 exhibitions a year is what we've maintained. And around the exhibitions, we don't just want the exhibition or the artist's work to be displayed and then just forgotten, right? So we do a lot of activation around it. We used to. Now we are, slowly and steadily changing our ways and processes as well. But earlier we used to do activation events around the exhibition. So the opening day would be celebrated. But we decided long ago that we would not have that chief guest vibe. So for the opening day of Markers in Morality, we invited all the Kotna women to come. They were our chief guests. So we invited them to come explore the museum, explore the exhibition. Then we all sat together, ate lunch. and then they went back. So that was like an event for us. And then we would do a lot of other sort of conversations. So we would do screenings to sort of further the conversations that we are doing. We would do discussions, talks, some sort of a hands-on activity. That was the idea, to activate the exhibitions.
So this was the time when you and Ayush
Yes.
were the only members of.
No, we also had Samiksha. Samiksha was the museum manager. And Samiksha is a core part of... Samiksha built all of the systems that have kept us going for 4 years. She was an integral. She is an integral part of Conservatorium. She still is. We still need her inputs and help all the time. She was the... While Ayush and I were the emotion and execution part of the things, Samiksha was the brain. She would ensure that we don't go over budget. She would ensure that we are taking all of the processes in place. She would ensure that the work is not just in our head, right? So she would help us not just execute and present it beautifully, but also take it out to a broader audience, because she was the first person that people would meet when they enter the museum, right? So her job, I think, was very, very crucial in terms of anchoring our audience. And also anchoring us as team members. She would ensure that we eat our lunch on time. She would ensure that none of us are doing out-of-pocket expenses that would be hard to justify later. She has at times even stopped us from doing the exhibition, saying जब तक पैसा नहीं आता तब तक exhibition का कुछ खरीदारी नहीं करोगे. You know, so she was literally the brain, and she put systems in place that museum managers after her have followed, that all of us have followed, and that has helped us be somewhat systematic. We're still very chaotic, but somewhat systematic. Yeah. So, and Kamini Didi has always been the part of Conservatorium. Kamini Didi from the start. Kamini Didi is the first employee actually. Kamini Didi was hired before any of us. So she's senior to all of us, and she is the real malkin of this place. All of us are just working in her world. She is the real MVP. She feeds us, she gives us chai, she ensures everything is clean, everything is put in place, everything is arranged. I feel all of us have, like, you take away any one person from Conservatorium and it loses its essence. All of us came together to build the space, and it wasn't just us. Like I said, it was an entire village that came through. You know, there are volunteers, there are friends of the museum, there are people who can't come themselves every week but will ensure they send somebody for events. There are people who there's this person called Urvi who walked in, saw the museum, and went like, now every time I come, I'm going to bring a new person. And she has followed it through over 3 years now. Every time she comes, she brings somebody new. I feel all of these people make Conservatorium, you know. They might not be on the payroll or the official website, but it would be a folly to say that only the people who work here work here. All of you have managed and helped us put up screens and manage projectors. All of us have created this space together, which to me is, because I had never seen this possible. I had never really thought that. How do we work without hierarchy, with just accountability? Conservatorium showed me that. Conservatorium showed me how much dignity and respect is important in whatever relationship you are working with. If it's a superior junior or a vendor versus non-vendor, dignity, respect, conversation can bridge through any gap that may exist in our thinkings or our upbringing.
You want water?
Sure. Thank you. I mean, I would be amiss if I don't talk about the impact that Priyank has had on us, or Ajay Singh Parihar has had on us. He was one of our first few collaborators. You know, all of these people helped us understand community better, understand the activation aspect of things better. They helped us brainstorm better. They gave feedback. They never made us feel like, oh, ये तो बाहर का concept है. Conservatorium became शहर का अपना बहुत जल्दी. And that I'm forever going to be thankful for to everybody. Like the Bhagwananis, they would come for every event. However tired or busy they are, they would always be here. The students, the Safai Karamcharis that would come, the protest singers from Bhilai, like not just people from Raipur, but even areas that are nearby, that are accessible. There was never hesitation in sort of coming to the space that, oh, maybe we are not welcome here. That question didn't really ever occur. It was mostly that, okay, kuch ho raha hai, chalte hain. You know, and that has been one of the biggest blessings, because I don't know honestly, how do we, if there's hesitation, if there's any kind of sort of distance between what we are talking and what people want to talk about, they wouldn't want to come, right? Especially because we prioritize discomfort so much in this museum. We, as comforting and as cozy as the space is, the kind of things that we talk about or the books that we have, they're discomforting. And people chose the discomfort again and again and again. They wanted to be disturbed. They wanted to know the truth, however saddening or problematic it was. And that we would have not been able to do if not for the people. Because we can talk about whatever we want to. Like, we've all seen this, right? There are so many discussions happening in Raipur all the time, but people don't really want to venture there. There's some sort of hesitation. There's some sort of, oh, but would we be welcome there question. That question somehow never arose for Conservatorium. It was always, and it has always been, and I hope it always stays, an open space where you could go with work, without work. कुछ नहीं करना है, सिर्फ चाय पीनी है, आ जाते हैं. कुछ करना है, इम्पोर्टेंट डिस्कशन आ जाते हैं. कुछ करना है, डिफिकल्ट चीज़ आ जाते हैं. बर्थडे सेलिब्रेट करना है, आ जाते हैं. You know, I really hope that that's what, I'm glad that that's how we've become. And I hope that that stays further. That this place is as communal as it has always been.
And I think also over the years, people made Conservatorium what they want, sort of in their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was very interesting because
Yeah.
it can't happen with any other place. Matlab, people have ownership of their place and they don't want to change and create. They want to adjure it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is very interesting power dynamics.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing that museum talks about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you talked about the first exhibition,
Yes.
and then do you remember any artist residency that was like?
Our first artist residency was with Pradeep Gupta from Bhilai. And you know, there are some artists that you work with who you become fangirl or fan person of for the rest of your life. Pradeep is that person for me. All of the artists that I have worked with here, actually. But Pradeep very, very strongly, because he's like a young boy from Bhilai. And I still remember he was so happy about being the first resident here as well. And that was a workshop. It was a residency and a 3-day workshop that he had taken about body and space. And while there were adults who would come, when you go to the terrace of the museum, the next door terrace is right next to it, right? So there are kids who come for tuition there who would keep peeping. And they would be very curious as to why are these adults just moving. It's looking funny as well. And then by the second day, we just made them join. We took permission from their guardians and we were like, why don't you join? And so it became more fun than actually a structured thing, rigid thing, which is what all of us wanted. And that was our first sort of experimentation also with how spontaneous participation works, which really came like a full circle with Idhar Udhar Ki Baatein that Avnish sort of curated, which was just Avnish putting up a story saying, I'm going to be at Conservatorium from this date to this date, from this time to this time. And he just invited people to come over, and people came over, and some of them were established writers, performers. Some of them were brand new, they had never performed before. And yet, all of these people got together and put up a show that personally blew my mind. The fact that there was, ideation on the spaces that people were going to perform at, the lighting, the costume, everything was homegrown. There was no expert that came. So the seed of that, I think, was sown right at the first residency with Pradeep. The second residency that I am like a huge big fan of was Fools and Labours. We were working with the entire thematic was around how different is art from labor, or what is this. And in my understanding, it is about class that decides who becomes an artisan versus who becomes an artist. Because the division of class, or the difference of class, sort of robs the agency, right? How do we then infuse the agency back into the conversation? How do we then sort of talk about, okay, this can be art too. It's just about the lens that we are working with. And so Prashant More, Deepak and Avnish, these three were in the museum. And they worked really hard. They created a site-specific performance in Naya Raipur that is documented. That was brilliant. They did a lot of audience engagement and work with the community of youth that would come to the museum every day. And they created this brilliant 8-hour durational performance for 1st of May. And we had a thunderstorm that day. So I have videos and footage that we didn't put anywhere, but of artists performing in pouring rain, of Deepak performing in complete darkness. It was almost like I remembered talking to these guys that, hey, do you think we can cancel the performance? And they were like, no, the performance doesn't need an audience. The performance doesn't need a perfect space. Deepak had actually pressure washed the terrace. Avnish had cleaned the entire fridge. Nobody asked them to. They just felt like the space belonged to them. And that's how this residency is like. Even though there was so much chaos and so much drama on the final day of performance, the performance still happened. And nobody complained. The artists didn't complain. The audience didn't complain. People braved rain just to come see what was happening. People fell ill after performing in the rain for like hours. There was no electricity. Phones had died. There was no documentation. Cameras had died. Beyond all of that, just performing for the joy of performing. Performing because that's the only way one can express what they're thinking, feeling. Performance without the need for approval of being seen is what Fools and Labour taught us, is what that residency really showed me, that it's not about what do you present to the audience, it's about how do you make them feel, how do you make artists engage with the audience beyond just a one-day performance. So these two residencies I think will stand out for me forever. Pradeep's first residency and Fools and Labour, which happened in 2024?
Yeah, I think we first celebrate.
2024, yes, May 2024.
I had a very interesting question. If I ask you, okay, for example, there are many people that work with associated with Conflict Project. If I ask you what event or what exhibition you connect them to, I think start from the earliest one, from Ayush.
Mm-hmm.
What exhibition or what sort of event that you connect him with to?
It's really hard to connect him to any one event or exhibition, honestly. Ayush is like the soul of this building. Even when he quit us, he kept haunting us. In the sense that he's still around, he helped us put up Jaisi Janata Vaisa Shasan as well. So I don't think I can really connect him to like one event or one exhibition. Rather, I would like to connect him to Ayush really worked hard on building the language of screenings here. Because he came from a visual artist background. He's a filmmaker himself. He really understood what kind of films would work for Chhattisgarh or Raipur or conservatorium audience. So now when we do a screening, we don't even have to do much. People just know that if it's happening in conservatorium, it has to be a good screening and they show up, right? I think that's what Ayush did. With Samiksha, I think Samiksha helmed all of the pre and post conversations. So this is something I was recounting to a friend a couple of days ago, that it is such a beautiful thing that in the middle of the city, we created a space that people don't want to leave. Every event, every time, we have to tell them, please, please, we also want to go home, go. And that, I think, is a very big thing, right? It's like a big achievement. And I think Samiksha helped us do that, or Samiksha created that sort of a scenario where after events, there's networking, there's conversations, there's catching up, there's food. Kamini Didi, I mean, no event is complete without Kamini Didi's chai. You know, people call me to check if Kamini Didi is around, and if she's not, they will not come because they come here for the chai. Deepshikha would have such interesting insights into how we can do different events, how we can add layers to what we are doing. So I think that's what I learned from her in terms of adding layers into seemingly simple things, seeing things from not just a operational standpoint, but also the emotional standpoint. How much it helps, how much it sort of creates the environment of sharing. Abhishek was, I think, with Abhishek, I learned how to mobilize and delegate. I struggle myself a lot with that. But Abhishek I just had to tell him the work and he would ensure the work gets done. Who does it is not his headache. But the work gets done. And I have zero complaints. I mean, I learned from him how better to delegate tasks and how to trust, actually. Because, you know, with years, and I say this with years because he has like a lot of years to catch up to my age. But with years, you get cynical with people. You get jaded. It's not that people don't show up, but I think the receiving capacity reduces. You don't really see how people are showing up. You have the certain rigidity in your head. And Abhishek helped me rewire that rigidity, not just for myself personally, but also for Conflictorium. In the sense that who do we call a volunteer and who do we call a friend of the museum got shifted a lot because of how Abhishek saw things. And now with Aprajita brings a very smart understanding of how best we can approach institutions. How do we approach things that probably are not aligned to us, but if we find commonalities, will make for a very interesting collaboration. And I think that's the kind of energy, that's the kind of beauty about Conflictorium, that whoever joins the team brings with them a new idea, a new outlook, a new world. And that's what creates this multidimensional, almost like a jungle of thoughts and emotions that we sort of navigate through, right, in this space. Yeah, so I don't think I can like put them to events and exhibitions, but I can.
It's interesting what you learned from them that you added. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
wanted to ask this question as the last, but I think this is the time. Now, as a leading Conflictorium, I think there's a blank space right now for the lead curator of it.
Yes.
And there's someone you don't know who will come.
Yeah.
And even after them, people will join.
Yep.
So
Yep.
What do you want to say? What do you give them a note to them?
Oh, this is the first thing I want to tell whoever comes is to trust their colleagues. Generally, especially in the corporatized world, we are taught to compete with each other or work not in tandem, but above or beneath with each other, right? At Conflictorium, we've worked really, really hard to create a horizontal hierarchy rather than a vertical hierarchy. And it only works when you trust each other. I can only listen to Kamini Didi's feedback if I know that she's not coming from a place of malice, that she's not attacking me, that she's trying to actually better me. I also want them to keep an open mind because this is not a space for rigidity. This is a very flexible space. And yeah, go crazy in the sense that the sky is your limit with what you want to do, here. I have worked for the past 12 years now, more than 12 years. I started working in 2012, 14 years now. I had never felt or seen the kind of freedom that Contratorium offers to all of its employees, not just to the lead, but all of the employees. That, Kamini Didi had this interest. She wanted to learn crochet in between. And she has the space to do that also. So it is about what do you want to do in life, and the sky is your limit in how you want to make it happen. I think these two things, if somebody holds on to, they're golden, Yeah.
Now this is interesting.
10 years from now, what things, I think people definitely there what things, what tangible things, or even a memory chunks you. I think yeah, some are very prominent. It stays with you for long.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think you will remember not?
Wow. I think I will always remember Contratorium for the community it created. Nothing that we do is possible without the community. We put up a poster and people just walk in, even when it doesn't make sense, even when they have better things to do, even when there are a lot of shit happening, even when their personal life is probably not going that great. People show up to support an artist, to support a filmmaker, to talk about something important. While there are several visuals that I will forever carry in my heart, I think 10 years from now, if I had to give somebody a reference about Contratorium, that is how I would refer, that it was a space that people came without any hesitation, without ever asking why. And yeah, that seriously is something very, very special to me because I'd never seen anything like that happen. When you're programming for public, there's this understanding that fatigue happens. And that is very, very true and fair. But somehow that didn't happen with Contratorium. Even if there was fatigue, even if somebody couldn't show up one day, they would ensure they would come for the next, right? And that is what I think I will carry forever. And I hope, I really genuinely pray to all the gods and universe that just grows, that the community that shows up just continues to grow. More and more people feel the camaraderie, feel the comfort of having similar minded people. Of like, I remember there was this phase when we started the museum in the beginning. I would every day come and read the memory jars because that was one of my favorite exhibits. And in those memory jars in the beginning, there were a lot of stories of sexual abuse because this was the first time people were getting that space, anonymous space, where they could talk about the abuse that they had faced, right? Both genders. And then started this phase where people would write notes to each other, Khushal. Somebody has written something and then somebody has responded and put it in the same jar. And then somebody has responded to that response and put it in the same jar. And like, while saying that, I'm getting goosebumps because who does that? And there were these communications that happened that made people feel seen, that made them feel that however dark, that made me feel however dark my life gets, there is somebody who can understand what I am going through, or somebody who has some words to help me out of that. We didn't do that. As a curator, as lead, as a manager, as a housekeeping staff, we didn't do that. It's people who did that. And that is what I think I will remember forever. And that is what I will keep with me. That is what I'm going to take with me. Yeah. Yeah.
People of Caucasian always have this resilience in them. I think but it's not to you can have like natural will build up over time. And that's what Caucasian babes for you.
Yeah.
They uh it shows them you can be resilient.
Yeah.
That is hard.
And sometimes resilience doesn't have to look like hard. Sometimes resilience can be soft and emotional, and there's space for that as well. Um, I think the core also comes down to being honest, right? Because sometimes we don't want to be honest. It's hard. It's so much easier to put up pretense. But pretense can only be surface level. And if all of us are always at surface level, it gets very boring very quickly. So we have the space. You can scream, you can cry, you can break things if you want to. There is space for all of that. There is space for feeling, but you have to do the real work of going beyond your pretense and honestly sit with the feelings that's coming. And sometimes that's what resilience looks like. Sometimes resilience looks like breaking down in an unknown new environment just because something that you saw or something that you felt reminded you of something else. The number of people who have cried in front of the sorry tree or Rohit Vemula's letter, and then they would come down and tell us that, it made me cry. That also is resilience. That also is a form of protest, right? In this world that's telling you constantly that you have to feel a certain way, behave a certain way, look a certain way, respond a certain way. Resilience can also look like saying no. Resilience can also look like, no, I want to do it this way. I don't want to fit in. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And thank you for this space ever.
Like I said, we didn't do it, those. The city did.
You are the medium though.
Thank you so much for saying that. I really hope that, for me, my intentions were, like I told you, my intentions were always coming from a place of the loneliness that I felt growing up. I don't want anybody to feel that way. I don't want anyone to feel that they were born in the wrong place or probably something's wrong with their head because they don't think like everybody else. Because it took me a lot of learning and unlearning to realize that my uniqueness is not a character flaw. It's actually like a medal that I have earned because I am unique. I am different. My brain works differently. If I can feel that kind of acceptance, if I can make anybody feel that kind of acceptance towards themselves by just being gentle, by just gently nudging them and being kind to them, why not, right? Why not?
Yeah, I think for any journey there are highs and lows
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
And there are highs where you get recognized by not archaeology.
Yeah.
You get a special visibility there, as well as there are lows also.
Yeah.
When people kind of things get harder to and it's
Yeah.
how big to fund.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what times but there are always people who can help you. But there are challenging time as well.
Yeah.
We want to because this time will come over time.
Sure.
So
Sure.
you want to talk about the time when it got real hard.
Sure, in the sense that I want to be very upfront that it has not always been very rosy and welcoming. We've had cops called on us because an event was happening that people thought around was not a good event. We've faced a lot of backlash from people who felt that we were doing things that were morally wrong. We've also, like, one of the hardest times for us was, I think, 2024, because the museum was started with grant from Prince Claus Funds, which was Netherlands-based grant, and they had promised us the initial setup money and then the running costs for the next 3 years. They only paid us the running cost for 1 year, and then the second year they paid us half cost because the government changed in the country, and they got a right-wing government who said that इस देश का पैसा बाहर नहीं जाएगा, नेदरलैंड्स का पैसा सिर्फ नेदरलैंड्स में ही खर्च होगा. सो दे couldn't give us the money. And at that point of time, we didn't have an additional source of funding for the Raipur Museum. And unlike the Ahmedabad Museum, where the building is owned by the organization, here the building is on rent. So we have a regular sort of an expense every month, a huge chunk of an expense. And so there were months when we didn't know how we would program, how we would pay the rent. The rent would get delayed by 4-5 months sometimes. We wouldn't be able to pay electricity bills. Our salaries got delayed. So yeah, there was difficulty. But at no point of time was anybody ever in the mood to give up. Almost always the team's response, and when I say team, I mean both the Ahmedabad and the Raipur team and the entire team. The team's response has been, ठीक है, ये problem है, let's innovate how to solve it. Right? How much is the money we need? How can we get to this money? What are the ways that we can do? So in 2024, we did an event. We did 4 fundraisers in 1 month that helped us get 2 months rent for the space, 2 months rent and 2 months electricity. It was all people giving money. And let me tell you, it was not the big chunks of money that came from some wealthy people, because it did. What stayed with me is how Abdul, every time he would come, he would give whatever money is in his wallet to the museum. Right? There were so many other people like that who didn't question where the money was going, who didn't even want to know or didn't even want the receipt to show. They didn't want to show off that they were giving money to the museum. They just wanted to support us. There were students who would give 20 rupees, 50 rupees. And those notes, I think, held way more value than the 1,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees that we did eventually gather. And that showed me that, okay, we are not alone in this. That helped all of us also have that sort of a problem-solving, innovative outlook, you know. People really, really came through when we were struggling, when the team was struggling. It was again the community that came through and said like, "अरे कहीं नहीं जाओगे आप लोग, अरे कुछ नहीं होगा, हम हैं यहाँ पर." You remember those days, right? So yeah, that was something that was that, and I think that is what I want for the future team members to remember too. That even when it gets really, really dark, there is always going to be some sort of a light seeping through. We just have to keep our eyes open. We just have to ensure that we don't take any of this personally. It's not about you or me or Kamini Didi or Aprajita. It's about the community at large. Conservatorium is not 3-4 people. Conservatorium is all the people who come here or have come here or know कि अच्छा हम जाएंगे conservatorium कभी तो. You know, it's about all of these people. And when it becomes really hard, people do show up. People show up in whatever shape, way or form, as long as we are willing to receive it. I think that's what I want people to remember when it gets dark, because it will. Come on, in the sense that we are an alternate organization working under a right-wing regime. The number of times, if I get a penny every time for the number of times we've been called a Naxal organization or a leftist organization, I don't think we would have a funding issue. But they're always going to be held with questions. We're always going to be asked a lot of questions about the money we spend or the kind of work we do. People have even asked us, if this is such a great place that you don't want any money at, why do you take salaries? But it is not for those questions that we do the work. It is for the people who feel accepted that we do the work. It's for the people who feel that they can come and study at Conservatorium when their house becomes too much. It is for the people who feel that they can come here on a date. It is for the people who feel that they can come here just to celebrate a birthday as much as they would want to come here to talk about religion. You know, those are the people that we have to hold on to and remember, not the naysayers, the doubters, the questioners, because they're always going to be there. Eventually, one day, they will also need us. And then we'll be here for them as well. You know? Yeah, that's about.
So it's been 4 years that
Yes.
we've been in Pakopay. From the day you first came from Moral Leaving, I think Lord Merrick may succeed.
Yeah.
What I say?
I learned a new language. I am, how do I put it? I used to be very narrow minded in my approach towards truth, honesty, dignity, equality, prejudice. I used to feel that attacking things head on is the way to go. And that was also naivety of youth, you can say. Joining Convertorium was me realizing that doesn't work. And now when I'm leaving Convertorium, I'm taking that with me. The idea that you don't always have to headbutt opinions that you don't agree with. Sometimes just sitting with them, working around them, broadening your horizon of understanding around it can also lead to a much more sustainable change rather than what a headbutting would do. Right? I learned a new language when I say I didn't know or I couldn't explore my interest in conflict before in the way that I can now. I wouldn't be able to talk to people the way I do now. I wouldn't be able to listen to people the way I do now. I learn every day something new at Convertorium, not just from the team, not just from the people I speak to, but also from the visitors who I probably don't speak to at all sometimes. But their reaction or how sometimes they spend slightly more time than is needed at one exhibit makes me want to question what is it that they are seeing. How do I make the seeing, the act of seeing, more broad? With youngsters especially, how do we inculcate curiosity? Because curiosity is very central to my being. I have always been a curious person. And so how do we inculcate curiosity into a generation that now lives on screens, has answers at a random Google search? How do you then have curiosity or wonder or the joy of knowing? All of these things I learned from at Convertorium. How do you deal with things with dignity? How do you offer respect not as a collateral, but as a given? Respect is not something that we offer because of something. Respect is a given. How do you then practice it rather than just talking about it? How do you make somebody feel not alien? Because it's very easy to say that, okay, you feel like this is your home, make it feel like your home. But there's a lot of work that goes into it, right? Giving up control, giving up the idea of कि अच्छा यहाँ पर यही होगा, which all of us are so almost subconsciously linked to. All of that I learned at Convertorium. I learned how to program for not just like I used to think that I could only program for Raipur because I understand Raipur and Chhattisgarh. And then Convertorium went to Sydney. And then we took our work to Sydney. And then I saw how even people who had zero context of India responded to the exhibit, right? How the tenets of humanity, despite border, despite class, caste, money, circumstances, surroundings, the tenets of humanity remain the same. All of us are just bunches of molecules trying to find a home, a place where we can belong, a place where we are treated kindly, where we have the freedom to treat people with kindness. And that made me realize that, okay, you know what? I can program for a larger audience. I don't just, it's not just coming from a place of context. It's coming from a place of centering lived realities. Convertorium taught me that. Like, I was centering lived realities in my journalism. But that was still an echo chamber. Now, when I talk about a story, like right now, when I spoke about Jamlo's story, it is going to reach a wider audience than what my story could have reached, you know. When we talk about religion or religious freedom or even capitalism and consumerism, just talking about capitalism and consumerism probably wouldn't really hit hard. But when somebody comes, sees the painting done on Blinkit bags, it stays with them. How many Blinkit bags would have taken to just create this? You know, when they see that box of Bahu, the Saurabh's work, it stays with them. And that is what, when I say sustained impact, that is what. And art has the power, nothing else, nobody else. We can all try, we are all trying, but only art has that power to actively make somebody stop, pause, and take notice. That Conservatorium taught me that. I can't draw to save my life. I have zero understanding of art. But then it also challenged that notion that what is art? Why does it have to look a certain way to be called art? Why does it have to fit into boxes? What does not fitting into boxes feel like? What freedom lies in coloring out of the box? How can you create that into something beautiful? You know, I am going to be forever grateful for Avni, for she is the one who made me understand, question these understandings. Like what you're talking about, power, you know. So at Conservatorium, we are very, very mindful about power dynamics. And the idea is, and this is Avni's idea, that power can only be handled when it's at play. If power gets controlled in one dimension, it's always going to turn toxic. The only way to not make power toxic is to ensure that power is at play, that everybody has some or the other kind of power over the other. That's how then we can ensure that, okay, nothing is toxic or nothing is just unidimensional. I would have never gotten to that point if it were not for Avni. I would have never understood the brilliance of documentary films and this sheer impact of visual language if not for Ayush. I'm forever grateful for Conservatorium and the team that Conservatorium created and had. Yeah.
Now I really think let's think. We touched upon this idea how it changed. You have seen from start to end and till now how rifle there's changed.
Wow.
And how but emotion with interacting with competition. I think we'll talk a bit in pieces if you have to gather if one piece.
So, honestly, I'm not sure if Raipur has changed so much so that it found a dimension of itself that would have not existed otherwise. In the sense that I wouldn't say that because of Conservatorium, people started talking about these things. Conservatorium became an easy access for people to then use it as a footstool and reach for stars. Be it Conservatorium has been lucky enough to be the opening space for a lot of communities to grow. Khela happened at Conservatorium. Adhyayan happened at Conservatorium. There's this group, I'm forgetting their name. A lot of communities have started or have had Conservatorium in their history somewhere. And I think if not for this place, that aspect would have been hidden. If not for this place, we would have just seen kids in cafe, which we still do, you know. But now at least there's an option that, hey, why don't we go here instead? Instead of going to a movie in a multiplex, let's go for a movie screening at Conservatorium, right? So it's not that it changed anything, it just made a dimension very visible. It made art or the artsy world more accessible. Otherwise, the idea was that art is something that only happens in metros. Art is something that happens far from us, which couldn't be further than the truth, huh? Because we have Khairagarh here, yaar. Matlab, come on. Khairagarh is the Asia's oldest university of art. So we have had artists. We have had the culture of artists getting together. Habib Tanveer is from Chhattisgarh. But over the years, because there was no space for all of these things to exist, they had become ghettoized. They had started being hidden almost. That hidden dimension saw a space to come and play. That hidden dimension saw a space where not a lot of questions would be asked from them. कि ये क्यों कर रहे हो? ये नुक्कड़ नाटक किस लिए बना रहे हो? या ये community क्या करेगी? We just let them be. And sometimes that's the only ingredient for success. Sometimes the ingredient for success is not to mess with things too much, to just let them breathe, let them just find their own space. And that has what I think Raipur, like the change in the Raipur landscape that Conflictorium did was that it helped bring to fore a dimension that they thought, that the city had thought missing, or the city had thought that we've lost it. But not really. It still exists. It still exists in these pockets, in these communities, in these people who want to do good, who want to do good is probably not the right phrase, who want to stay honest to themselves, who want to express truthfully, who want to hone their skills not for money but for joy, who believe that art is not just a means to an escape, but also a means to live life, to make the current life bearable, Yeah.
I think I have two more questions.
Are you not tired of listening to my voice yet? My voice is very tiring. मुझे अपना आवाज ऐसा लगता है जैसे कान में शीशा घोल के डाल दिया किसी ने. Sorry.
So, what's the next chapter right now for you as an individual?
ये existential सवाल है थोड़ा सा खुशहाल. I'm gonna take a minute, okay?
Yeah, please.
I am moving cities. I am once again uprooting myself from my home ground with the hope of learning something new. There's a lot of trauma for me personally in my personal life, a lot of trauma over the past 5 years. In a way, I'm trying to escape that. I want to become. All of us have traumas in our past. We choose if that trauma becomes a heavy stone that we carry, or if that trauma helps us grow into a better direction. By making this choice of uprooting myself from my home base, I'm choosing the latter. I want to give some space between me and the factors that cause the trauma, to be able to process the trauma in a healthy way, to come back as a much better person. I don't want to leave. This is my home. My parents are still here. This is home, right? But for now, I want to learn, grow, ensure that my skills are not unidimensional, that I don't get too comfortable in what I'm doing, because I did get too comfortable with Conflictorium. I did. This is like, I joke about this, that this building is an extension of my home. Even now, there are clothes in my bag. I'm going to take a shower here. That's how it is. I want to see if I can still do this type of work without the comfort. If I can introduce comfort as a new concept in newer places. That's the kind of work that I'm interested in doing currently. I'm moving to Bangalore. Let's see how long I stay there. And I hope you get to ask me this question once, like, I'm settled in Bangalore and I come back and then you were like, what are you doing now? And I have a better answer, because currently I'm actually, like, the reason that I took that pause was also because I don't want to leave. This is home. But I know that for any kind of growth and progress to happen, you have to leave home. And that's what I'm doing. The processing of it will follow, I'm pretty sure, in some time. But for now, it's very, very hard. It's really hard. मैंने पूरी गृहस्थी बसा ली थी अपनी, मैंने पूरी अपनी ऐसी ज़िंदगी बहुत अच्छे से, I have a very, very supportive group of friends. I have lovely people around me. I had people who, Kamini Didi ensured that not one morning, if I'm on calls, she would get me coffee without even having to ask. Nobody would let me go back home to no food. People would feed me, people would take care of me. If I was sick, they would go out of their way to help me out. And I'm leaving all of that behind. When people would come to Conflictorium, they would want to hear about how I feel. They would seek me out as much as I would seek them out for comfort and reassurance. And I'm leaving all of that behind. And I don't really want to, but I know that I have to. I'm sorry. Yeah. Change is very hard. Yeah. That is why this decision as well. But it's very, very hard. I don't want to. Like, Raipur will... I was born very close to the museum, actually. Tiwari Nursing Home. It's right behind Tony and Guy. And I'd never imagined that I'd be working so close to... Like, it's a full circle moment for me, right? From being born there to now working here and being known in this area. This will always be home. I know for a fact that I want to come back to Conflictorium again and again and be a part of it in whatever shape, way, format I can be, right? But yeah, it's time to also grow. 4 years is a good amount of time. I think I have shared whatever I could with Conflictorium. Conflictorium has taught me a lot. And now, once I grow, get more world experience, life experience, maybe I can come back to Conflictorium. Maybe by then, Conflictorium will have something new to share with me. You know, that's the hope. That's the hope. Yeah.
I think this might give an aspect before I give over to you. Like, what sort of a not message, what sort of a note you want to give someone who have not heard anything about Northern Movement, what has just entered the debate right now, and don't know how people is, what music is, what sort of road and space.
Yeah. Okay, so Conflictorium is a museum of conflict, and the idea of that is that we don't want to look at museums in the colonial sort of a way, where it's objects put on display. We want to look at museums as a living, breathing ground for culture to grow and be preserved. And culture to us is very, very strongly based on lived realities, the experiences of people who are living and making that culture. So Conflictorium uses multimedia and different objects, things, stories to create an environment where you don't just get a peek into the lives that you might not have experienced, but you also are encouraged to have curiosity, critical thinking. You're encouraged to feel and not just consume. Especially more so relevant in this time and age because everything, almost all of the other media is you're consuming. Everything is a bana banaya khana जो आप खा लेते हो और खत्म हो जाती है चीज़. Conflictorium is a space that gives you those raw ingredients. There are books that will make you go like, what? ऐसा भी होता है. There are audios that will make you question. There's artwork, there's images, there's a lot of things that will, if you want to, that will make you question your understanding, your standing, your point of views. And with that comes discomfort. And while the idea is to discomfort people, the idea is not to create a distance between discomfort and the understanding. The idea is to, how do we as a society deal with discomfort? Because conflict itself, when we talk about conflict, socially we are not used to addressing it. We say things like, oh, but I'm a very non-confrontational person, I can't talk. But it's not just the talking or the fighting that is conflict. The fact that there is some kind of discontent or discomfort within you is also conflict, right? As a society, over the years, we've seen how shooing it away, pushing it under the carpet doesn't really work. So, Conflictorium tries to offer a different approach, where what happens if you don't shoo it away? What happens if you sit with the discomfort for a little bit? What does it do to you then? And this is an experience that a lot of the visitors would vouch for, especially on Google reviews and word of mouth. Then once you sit with the discomfort doesn't seem that big. The discomfort doesn't seem that lonely. It actually helps. So I see conflict as a friction, right? Without friction, there can't be movement. We all of us imagine that if there's a बिना friction का surface, movement बहुत अच्छे से होगा, but नहीं होता है. Friction is what pulls or pushes, whatever you might want, the motion forward. So conflict, discomfort, all of these are things like that. This is the friction that constantly keeps you moving forward, that constantly keeps you engaged into something. And if all of this feels very, very hard and difficult to understand, that is understandable, you know. Conflictorium at its base is a space where you can find like-minded people, whatever you do. So this is an example, a beautiful anecdote. If you go to the memory jar area, there's one memory card that's written in Japanese. We have a lot of different languages, but the one that is in Japanese stands out actually. So that man had come from Japan. He's studying in DU. And when he goes back to Japan after the end of the year, he wants to say to his friends that he has traveled all the states. So whenever he gets like a long weekend, he just travels to the capital of the state and he just roams around, gets an idea of the state, and then he goes back. Right? So he'd come to Chhattisgarh for 2 days. On the first day itself, in the afternoon, he found out about Conflictorium and he came to Conflictorium. He explored the museum. He tried to talk to Kamini Didi and I using Google Translate. And then I think in a couple of hours, he'd found an entire friend circle. And these were people who took him out for dinner, showed him around, took him to Gadkaleva to try Chhattisgarhi food. And he didn't go anywhere. The next morning, again, he left his hotel and he came down to Conflictorium and the same circle of friends that he had made just the last day. And he was just chilling with them. So at the end of this, anything of, you know, jargon or intellectual conversation, it's a place where you can find friends. And we all know how difficult it is to find friends as adults, you know, especially people who are not interested in how much money you earn, what kind of clothes you wear, which brand is your shoe. You can just find friends who would be up for, you know, just walk to get chai with you, or who would be up to get a meal with you, who would be up to do nothing and just sit in silence and scroll on our phones with each other. So Conflictorium then becomes a space for community, camaraderie, safety, emotional and actual physical safety. So there's like a lot of things that happens here beyond the intellectual jargon as well, I feel. Yeah, I hope that helps. I hope that helps bring people here.
Yeah, I think it helps. Yeah, I think now we skin we have that something special highlight.
One thing that I'm really hopeful for is that I genuinely hope that we find newer ways of collaboration with Conflictorium. Till now, we have had some good runs of collaborations with local groups, artist networks. I want it to be a thing where people randomly get together and go like, okay, let's do this at Conflictorium. You know, that is like my big hope and a message as well. You don't have to have any sort of a degree or professional sort of experience. As long as there's like even a hint of an idea, come here, come to Conflictorium. Let's flesh it out together. Let's become that space that that becomes the mother ground for anything ideation wise or any wacky, innovative, out of the box ideas. Yeah, I really, really hope that that does happen at this space. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.